All right. Hello again, and welcome to the first part two ever. There's a first part two. I'm your host, James Dillard, Fun Fans Podcast co-host. With me is Bailey Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
Hello, everyone, for the first part two. I didn't think about it that way.
And we are still in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. And we were going to start at 5 o'clock, but it is definitely 5 o'clock somewhere. So this is part two. Yesterday was part one, the first time back-to-back Fun Fan podcast ever. Just to let you know, Fun Fans is the official podcast for Clemson fans, proudly brought to you and sponsored by the Fanboys Fangirls. Find them at thefanboys.com, and Rubens. Find them at rubensc.com. So we talked about the weekend in part one with every sport except basketball. Bailey needed a 24-hour cooling off period to get into Bailey's basketball beat. So
I had to put a little thought into my reaction. So
he's the research guy and had to do some driving. So
I'm stunned still.
So let's just Clemson. Let's start with the ACC tournament. Clemson beat NC State again, and then. What did you think about the game against Virginia?
Well, I mean, Virginia makes you play like that. Unfortunately, when you have a basketball team, you match up with some people and some people you don't match up with. Virginia is a very difficult team to defend, and they're also very difficult to run offense against because they do such a great job in. To use a technical term, their pack line defense, which is something that I ran for 27 years. So it's predicated on making your opponent shoot outside shots, tough shots, and Clemson didn't make enough of them, and that happens. Yeah, I knew Virginia was a tough matchup. So I thought they had done enough, honestly, and I'm not the only one. The Jay Billises of the world, Seth Greenberg. LaFonso Ellis, everybody on television, and they still except the committee members.
Right, and even the folks from what I've seen and heard that were putting Clemson the first four out or in some category that was out, once the brackets were released and NC State and Pitt were in and Clemson was out, even those folks were kind of confused. I think NC State fans, and good for them. I mean, good for them. But I think they're the only ones left that can even make up a reason why they're in, and Clemson's not. So, yeah.
Now, so no team has ever been selected that has non-conference strength of schedule over 300. Okay. Mm-hmm. Clemson had some bad breaks. Sorry. Cal, they played early in the year, had just an abysmal season, a bunch of injuries and things. Normally they don't. Okay. Right. So that hurts that. They lost at the buzzer to Iowa, an NCAA tournament team. Okay. They, and they lost to the Gamecocks, which we've talked about that already. It's the year of the Gamecock. Okay. They ruined our basketball season. They ruined our baseball season. They ruined our football season. So it's the year of the Gamecock. Enjoy it.
Right. It's the year. So to kind of finish out the ACC tournament, Duke, was it just – and I know they didn't come from nowhere. They were a 4 seed. They got a double bye. But where was that Duke team? How were they only a 4 seed? Because they seemed to pretty much go through other folks in the tournament.
They're extremely young, so young teams get better. They were injured. They had a bunch of injuries, and they're finally healthy. So Duke, honestly, Duke's played as good as anybody, and they have Duke-level talent. So they could make a run in the tournament. I think if Clemson had gotten in the NCAA tournament, they could have played in the Sweet 16. They had a legitimate chance. If they make shots. That's been the story all year. Make the shots from the outside.
Duke definitely had a great tournament. And you know who else had a great tournament? J-Do. J-Do was actually the entertainer at the ACC women's tournament this year because he is MC, entertainer, entrepreneur. He does tournaments, pep rallies, corporate events, game shows, fundraisers, galas. Just put that man on the mic and let him liven up the party. Jadu is a friend of mine. I've seen him work, and you and your organization will not be disappointed anytime you add Jadu to your function. Find him at itsjadu.com on all forms of social media at itsjadu. Now, speaking of the brackets, the March Madness, there's a ticker going across the bottom. We want everybody to enter a set of brackets with us. I've been posting the link every time I post stuff, and we can compete against each other. The winner will get both a koozie and a tumbler. All right, so make sure you enter a bracket with us. And speaking of the folks that there's at least one of these teams that should not exist, not these teams, but the 68 teams that got in, one of them should be Clemson, but they're not. Bailey, have you filled out a bracket yet?
No.
So have you seen the brackets?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so what this is each region, it's the top 4 in each region. Is there anything that stood out to you in the brackets?
Yeah, Clemson's not in them.
Yeah. Amen. Preach on.
Yeah,
okay,
well, here's what happened.
Second thing.
I'm driving down here yesterday, and I know I'm not watching the selection show, but I happen to be in the truck with it plugged in with Apple CarPlay on and my sound, and I was listening to the show, and it was on the screen of my phone, but I just every time an 8-9 seed popped up, or a 7-10 seed, or even the 6 and Clemson being an 11 seed, every time it popped up, I was like, well, they're going to go here. They're going to go here. I mean, even though they're not an 11 seed. I think they're like a 7 or an 8. But anyway,
right.
So I was very disappointed when that show, I just turned it off, and then I got stuck in traffic.
Yes.
And that made it even worse. So the reason we have part 2 today is because yesterday I could not gather my thoughts enough. But now I have a whole sheet of information over here.
Let's hear.
All right, so as we know, Clemson's going to play in the NIT Wednesday. Morehead State won the Ohio Valley Conference. Clemson is one of the number 1 seeds, if not the number 1 overall seed in the NIT. And they are Yahoo Sports said there were 5 teams that got the biggest snubs from the NCAA tournament, with Rutgers being one, Vandy, Oklahoma State, Clemson, and North Carolina. Now let's talk about the Tar Heels briefly. The Tar Heels turned down an invitation
to the NIT.
They said they weren't coming. We're not going. But I knew they would do that. Now they're saying they're injured, they're banged up, and they need to try to get, we're going to turn our focus to next year. Okay, they were the number 1 ranked preseason team in the country.
Oh, wow.
Okay, what they're going to turn their focus to is the fact that Caleb Love, R.J. Davis, and Armando Bacot could be potential NBA draft guys. All right. And the article even says maybe they'll sweeten the pot to get them to return with NIL money.
There you go.
Come on.
Who needs
man.
the NIT when you got the NIL, baby?
So what they were really scared of is that those 3 would opt out, like we do it, like people do in football.
Oh, yeah.
That's my opinion. All right. So that's enough about the Tar Heels. I said it many, many times. I grew up in the shadow of North Carolina, and everybody in my little hometown that didn't know anything pulled for the Tar Heels because they won all the time. All right, now, the Big Ten led the way with the SEC, and 8 teams got in the tournament. James, can you tell me the last Big Ten team to win an NCAA tournament?
That would be – no, I can't tell you that.
Okay, well, it was Maryland in 2002. Here's the funny thing. They were in the ACC at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Suddenly they're a powerhouse basketball conference.
Well, I don't understand the Big Ten getting 8 teams in. The last title they won was in 2000, Michigan State. And then before that, it was 1989, Michigan. The ACC, since 1990, has won 38% of the national championships.
Wow.
Yeah, sure. Some of them are Duke and North Carolina, but you got the Syracuses, the Louisville, this, that. I mean, it's
Well,
like I don't get it.
well,
All right, SEC, I
they,
understand. SEC's good. Alabama's good. A&M's good. Those are some good teams. Vanderbilt probably could have been in the tournament. The Big 12, supposedly the best conference in the country, they only get 7 in. But
well, you
I
know
look
what
at
matches those conferences? This kind of goes back to football, and I don't know if it's the same with basketball, but the big money, the big TV deals.
well,
It makes you wonder if the TV money is not influencing who makes the dance.
I mean, the Big East got 5 in. I mean, you got West Virginia's in the Big 12. They're like 17 and 14 or 19 and 14.
There's still a
Illinois,
Big East. I didn't know the Big East still
they're in
existed.
the Big 12.
Oh,
The Big East is like Seton Hall, UConn, those football powers.
oh,
ACC got 5 teams in. Clemson, so Clemson head to head against NCAA tournament teams, lost at the buzzer to Iowa early in the season, beat Penn State, a Big
mm-hmm.
10 team, beat NC State 3 times like a drum.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
No,
2 of the times at
26,
least.
25, and 14.
Yeah.
You're the math guy. Do the average. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Beat Pittsburgh on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Beat Duke at home. Had a 4-point loss at Miami, the regular season champs, who could make a run in this tournament, by the way.
Yes.
And so because when you schedule non-conference games, you don't know teams are going to be good or bad. You think they might be good, but like California. So the bottom line is there are 2 losses. Well, there were 4 bad losses this year. Early against the Gamecocks. PJ Hall, 10 minutes, played 6 or 10 minutes, whatever. Loyola Chicago. I have trouble saying Loyola. I can't get that out. LC. Terrible loss over right around Christmas. And then you can live with at Boston College if you don't lose at Louisville.
Yeah.
Okay. And those are, like Brad Brownell said in his press conference, Clemson put it in the committee's hands. If you win those games, you don't put it in their hands. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm almost done.
Okay.
It's a travesty. It's a travesty.
With a capital Trav.
And every year, there are teams that say this. Every year.
Yes.
We happen to be feeling it right now.
Feeling it.
All right. It just blows my mind that one loss really to Louisville and strength of schedule non-conference, that hurts.
Well, tell me if I'm wrong. It seemed that, and once again, I don't know if the committee used these quadrants or quarters or whatever those things were, Q3s and Q4s, but it seemed like there were more emphasis on losses than wins. Beating Duke didn't help us, obviously, and didn't mean as much to folks as it did as losing to Louisville. And I don't understand it.
Traditionally, if you had, let's say Pitt, Clemson, and NC State were on the bubble. They were all on the bubble.
Yes.
Okay. And Penn State was on the bubble for a while. As a committee member, don't you let's look at the common opponents here.
The head-to-head and yeah.
Oh, Clemson was 5-0.
Right. That's what. Yeah. They looked at losses more. They put losses. They gave that more weight than wins. I don't. The only thing, and then I'm just making up if there's a logical explanation, is because it is a one loss single elimination type tournament, that would the losses imply that team is not a good tournament team. They're trying to. I don't know. I'm just trying to make something up, but I don't know how folks justify, like you say, there's always a team or two that are in
Well,
the seat we're in.
they have all these matrices. Is that plural for matrix?
Matrices, sure, it can be.
Okay, and so it's not matrices. It's matrices.
May try.
Well, we'll have to look that up. But anyway, they have these things, but they're still human beings sitting in that room. And I mean, it's tough. I wouldn't. Who wants to be on that committee?
How depends on how much it pays.
Who's volunteered to be on that committee?
Yeah, nobody's volunteering, I'm sure.
Or the BCS committee, for that matter, or whatever it is in football. Who's doing that?
Right.
So,
well,
they could easily expand. Here's my solution before we leave.
Okay.
You could easily expand this tournament by 8 teams. Okay. Mm-hmm. From 64, let's call it 64 because that's what eventually ends up in the tournament.
Right.
To 72. You already play 4 games in Dayton, Ohio. All right. And these automatic qualifiers that are number 16 seeds. I get it, man. They play all year. They want to win. They want to go to the big dance. I get it. I understand. But are we trying to find the best team in the country, or are we trying to let everybody play? So put 8 more teams in. Or if you want to stick with the current format, has to be multiples of 8 or 4, you could put 16 more teams in. It's just 1 or 2 rounds. That's all you're looking at. Because you play around and then you put them in the bracket somewhere.
Right. Basically,
you don't have to play that out. It's just like 2 11 seeds playing in Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, you're expanding the play-in games, essentially.
Which brings revenue.
Oh, yeah.
Let's be honest. You could have it at one site. It could bring revenue, and teams could go play. You want in, go play. 2-day turnaround.
They could do some. If there's 4 regions, there would be 4 teams of 4 play-in deals or something, and that would be. That'd be a lot of play-in games.
If you're an 8, 9, 10, or 11 seed, you're an at-large team. The 12s, the 13s, the 14s, the 15s, the 16s, those are automatic qualifiers from smaller conferences almost every single time.
Right.
So,
my
favorite team now is College of Charleston.
That's right. Go Cougars.
Now, I'm going to tell you, they're good. They're good. They're really good. And Pat Kelsey is phenomenal. So,
I heard they bring them off the bench. They play like 11 players, and they're hard to keep up with, that kind of deal.
And they're good. But there's and I apologize for keep looking at my phone. Graham Neff was having a press conference at 5:00 today. And I'm pretty sure it was to give a vote of confidence to Brad Brownell.
Well, that was going to be my last question about not being selected into the tournament. What does that do for we've talked multiple times about Coach Brownell and, getting over the hump. It's not him. I mean, you look at the records and the wins and the losses. I mean, that could have been, it's a good season.
When you're historically good.
Right. It's not making the tournament. Surely you can't take that out on, just because you don't like people already don't like the coach would be the only one saying anything about like it's his fault. But on the bright side, we are hosting a game. So, I mean, if we're trying to be positive, you can play home games in the NIT, and it's still your team out there. I've got my tickets. Go get your tickets. Support the Tigers Wednesday night at Little John Coliseum. That's what this podcast is all about. It's a fun fan experience. Go downtown, go to Little John, put your orange on, and support the Clemson Tigers, and it'll be a good time. My daughter, Clemson graduate, who went to D.C. and just happened to be home on her spring break, it works out really well for us, her to get an opportunity to experience a little bit of Tiger activity, to go cheer on the Tigers while she's in town for her spring break. So we're going to go over there Wednesday night and support. There's timeout. All right. So it's 30 seconds.
This just in.
All right.
Graham Neff met with reporters Monday afternoon and has put Brad Brownell's future to bed. Neff said that Brownell will definitely be back next season for the Tigers, and we're moving forward with Coach Brownell.
Very good. So let's just do that. No more extension, or they'll work that out later, I guess.
That'll be talked about. I mean,
right.
I don't think look. If I'm Brad Brownell, I don't ask for a contract extension right now. I think they'll say you're in the tournament next year or you're out. That's fair. The guy's won more games than anybody in Clemson history.
Right.
We live in a microwave world.
Yes, we do. Speaking of microwaves,
don't put
your
microwave.
tumbler in the microwave. Put your name, put your brackets in with the Fun Fans. I'll put the links with everywhere we post the stuff. The winner will get both a koozie and a tumbler. We will be back with another March Madness update next weekend. And we appreciate everybody coming back for the special part 2. Make sure you click subscribe on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on the Facebook page. We're doing a drawing for a winner each and every week. On that, Bailey.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Cougars. Go Paladins. Furman's in. Till next time, everybody. See you later.
Yep. On behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, J Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Network, and Bailey Jackson, go Tigers.